So what's different about this program than, so a 1 day or even a couple-hour workshop session that HR may put on for a company to engage in training around bias or gender discrimination or something along those lines? What makes this program different?
Well, first of all, a lot of those programs are kind of quick, as you mentioned, a 1 day, a couple of hour program. This one is not built around risk management like a lot of those programs are. This one is actually trying to change hearts and minds and expand people's thinking around, and even to pay attention to the different dimensions of diversity that we don't always think about. So, we do think about gender, we do think about race, but we don't always think about neurodiversity. We don't always think about generational diversity, political diversity. There's multiple dimensions of diversity that this is really focused on. How do you leverage all those differences to have better outcomes for your organization?
I may be biased because I went through the program, but one of the things that I took away from the program that I thought was interesting was there's a lot of data that's out there that actually shows that diverse decision-making bodies make better decisions. Diverse organizations have actually better economic outcomes. So it's not just about creating a path towards success for different people. It's also about an organization's capability to succeed on its own.
I think that's right. And I think that's what's differentiating about this program, because the diversity is around us, and organizations that kind of see it as a topic to just manage, maybe this is the buzzword of 2019, 2020, and it'll go away soon. The folks who are doing that do it at their own peril. I literally was reading some data or a research study this morning about the next generation, there's lots of names for it, but the digital natives. I actually pay real attention to this because I gave birth to one of these, and I raised one. I guess born between what I saw this morning, I think McKinsey did this research between 1995 and 2010, people born in that period, and how critically important it is. They embrace diversity. They love differences, as opposed to or sort of trying to figure out differences. They've kind of got it, and they are looking at, the research says they're looking at organizations, and if they're not authentic around this, if they say, yes, we embrace inclusion, and they don't, these guys smell it and don't buy from them, don't work for them. I think a lot of people are figuring out that if your customer base or your supplier base or your employees look different than the senior leadership or the leadership of your organization, there's going to be a dissonance there that's going to show up on the bottom line.
So you're using language, it's not just diversity, it's inclusion. It's not just about having a quota of a specific number of different groups that become employees at your company. It's actually having a path to success for all of the employees and all of the participants, or all the folks that are in a program participating of all shapes, sizes, and colors.
That's right, because what we're seeing in the research is if you just go after the diversity piece and you don't work on the inclusion piece, it's not going to help you, because you will spend a lot of money on recruiting and have turnover. For example, on the employee side, if you are not authentic with this with suppliers and customers, like I said, they're going to sense it and they're going to go to somebody else. So you really run the risk, if you do the diversity piece without really doing the work on the inclusion piece, of making it worse than not doing anything at all. And that's what we're seeing in a lot of the outcomes research, how much is being spent on D&I initiatives. I think I saw a number of 1.6 billion somewhere that corporations are spending in this space, and the question of, are we really seeing the return on this? And it looks to us like it's the inclusion piece. How do you get people to recognize differences and embrace difference? Because the challenge is teams that are diverse, they have better outcomes universally. The difference is teams that are diverse don't feel as good about their process, even though their outcomes are better. Because if it's a homogeneous group, they feel great about their process, but they didn't do as well as a team. And we see that over and over again. So you can understand why people say, well, that didn't feel good. It's tough, but it's that tension between people that have differences that's actually generating the better outcome.
Well, isn't this part of the thread? And I'm going to quote one of the people that spoke to us in the group that it's becoming comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. And as soon as you can embrace that, you're actually able to work through some of these differences with all kinds of different people. And actually, the process at that point feels great because you're making progress with whoever you're working with.
I love that you said that and brought that up because that's exactly it. That this program that Leadership Center has creates the space to let you practice and engage in and be invited in to these uncomfortable conversations and kind of start to figure out how to do that. So this program's a little intense. I think it's fair to say. Stuff comes up, but if you really want good outcomes for your organization, it's probably worth it, and it's a safe place to practice that.
So the program is one thing, but I'm fascinated watching how you're taking diversity and inclusion and spreading that into the rest of the offerings of the center, into the leadership of the center, and into the operations of the center. Can you talk about how it's not just putting on a program, but instead it's operationalizing that diversity and inclusion into everything you're doing?
Sure. Well, again, I'll go back to that if you just kind of put that out there, we run this program, and you're not authentic in that as an organization, that's going to show. And that inauthenticity will really cause more harm than good. So I was delighted, for example, when the board was brave enough, and it was a brave decision, to say, we're going to step away from revenue, from being a membership organization. We're going to put that on the side. We're not going to be a membership organization. We're going to treat everyone who graduates from our programs the same, regardless of whether or not they pay every year a membership fee. That's a new thing for leadership programs. When I went to the National Association of Leadership Programs, I didn't see a lot of people doing that, and I thought it was a pace setter move on the part of the board of Leadership Center, and I think it's going to accelerate some change in maybe some other organizations like that. But I think we're taking the fact that the board was brave enough to stand up a new program in diversity and inclusion and using that to look at every aspect of what we do to make sure we're aligned. If we're going to be talking about inclusion, we need to be doing our very best to deliver on that as an organization. So everything that we do, we are looking at. So the group that does our leadership summit, we do an annual summit this year. It's February 28th, 2020. We do that. They pick the theme of inclusion, which I was very gratified by. So it's just kind of, people are getting it. They're associating that with us, which is fun to see.
Did you even have to put your thumb on the scale?
I did
to
not.
Get them to do
I
that?
did not at
I
all.
Did not know that.
I did not.
Wow.
No, that came out of it, out of the group that is putting that together. And I think some of it is the timeliness of it because everybody's wrestling with this issue. You know, they want resources and they want space to have conversations about it.
To go back to the alumni versus membership model, I love how you've taken what was a paid model for membership and instead made it just alumni and then encouraged people, hey, if you want to put money towards the organization, take the money that you were putting towards membership and instead donate that to the organization to help provide for scholarships so that the organization has a more broad spectrum of ability to reach out to all members of the community so that they can participate in the Leadership Arlington program or the Signature program or the Youth program or the Ignite Young Professionals program.
That's right. And we see another gap there for us in that as a small nonprofit, we don't have a lot of resources. We need the community to help us make scholarship seats available in all of our programs. We have tried over the years to accommodate that and try to do half price. But even at half price, that's still a high amount for some organizations to either underwrite or individuals to underwrite to be in our programs. And we do believe really to our core that leadership happens at all levels. There is positional leadership, like running a law firm, right? Okay, that's positional leadership, obviously, but there's leadership everywhere. And we want to start to help organizations see to bring that out. So we need to do that in our own programs. And I think the way you see that, for example, we had someone who's probably number 3 in a Fortune 10 company involved was in our D&I program, who made the comment that, I don't know that I would have come in this program if I'd realized it was sector and cross levels. I mean, everybody in our program was a leader, but not necessarily a C-suite leader. And that person's response was, you know, I would not have gotten the richness out of this program if that wasn't the case. And I would say vice versa. I think that person's perspective was huge for a lot of people in the room. So we want to be able to make sure that folks are there that wouldn't traditionally be recognized as established leaders, because that's the perspective stretching that we want to have, and we need the community to help us make the budget work around that. So the jury's out on whether or not this, I guess the finance committee of the board can hold me accountable if the donations don't come close enough to what we were generating in membership, but I kind of have a feeling that we're going to be okay on